think it's the combination of a few things. One, we have a food industry that pays no attention to health, and we have a health industry that pays no attention to food. Engineer foods to make you addicted, dumb, and weak. And then we have our healthcare system, and their goal is to just give you medications. Big Pharma actually profited over $1.4 trillion in 2022, with some of the biggest companies having an increase in over 23% because of COVID.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, as always, I got a real treat for you. Rachel Shear is in the house.
Brad, welcome.
No, you welcome. It's a little bit hot in here, only because the AC for some reason is on the whack. So I apologize, but we still have her here. She flew in from Dallas, Texas. If you guys don't know who she is, you can follow her at Rachel Scheer. Sheer is spelled S-C-H-E-E-R. Rachel Scheer. She's got a podcast called Sheer Madness with Rachel Scheer, and she's a certified medicine nutritionist, entrepreneur / speaker. You put speaker. Now, do you go around and speak on stages?
I talk on stages.
You talk on stages? That's what I do. Don't say that.
I'm a talker.
You're more of a talker than a speaker?
I'm a talker. I share stories.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
So seriously, do you go around and speak?
Yeah, I do speak on stages.
What do people have you speak on? Nutritionist type stuff?
I speak on taking a holistic and root cause approach to health and healing. I share my story. I almost had my large intestine removed, and that was Western medicine's approach to fixing a lot of my gut issues. And I share my story of healing, overcoming. I talk a lot about entrepreneurship.
Why entrepreneurship?
Why entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
Because I like entrepreneurship, and I've taken my story and I've turned it into my purpose and mission. And I built a multi-million-dollar business purely out of my own story.
Nice. So let's go over your story. What's your story?
My story. Where to start?
Pardon?
Where should I start?
Start at the beginning.
The beginning.
Yeah, start at the very beginning.
So I have always been passionate about fitness. I was a gymnast and I was a dancer. And when I went off to school, I wanted to be a registered dietitian, a nutritionist.
Why?
Why? I think for me, fitness was always an
Were you
escape.
always fit?
I was always, I'd say skinny, but I wouldn't say I was always healthy. I grew up on McDonald's, stored Halloween candy. I ate shit for most of my life.
But you were never a large woman.
Never was large.
Okay.
But I wasn't healthy. And I watched my dad's mental health decline, and I grew up in a very, very toxic family. And
Where at? What city?
Minnesota, in Burnsville, Minnesota. You can hear a little accent.
Little one. Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay. So you grew up in a toxic family. What does that mean?
It means I really didn't have parents, even though I physically had parents that were there. My mom was physically absent, out partying, drinking drugs, where my dad was actually emotionally absent as a byproduct of my mom. So I could be gone for days, no questions asked. And I lived off of stored Halloween candy, McDonald's, I ate shit. But fitness was my escape. It gave me a sense of worth when I felt like I didn't have that very much growing up. And it gave me a community as well. So that led me to want to pursue nutrition and dietetics, because I was like, well, maybe if I actually start to eat healthy and like learn about the human body, I could get really good in this, because that was really the one area I felt like I had something in my life.
So how did you almost lose your gut or your intestines?
Yeah. So like most people, I got into fitness because it gave me a sense of confidence. I liked what it did for me. I was very insecure growing up. I was shy. I was the girl in class who like sat in the back, sat quiet, never really spoke up, never really.
Why so?
I think it was a lot of my upbringing. I think I learned at an early age it wasn't safe to speak, to use my voice, which is what's so ironic, because now I speak on stages. And I think part of that has been a byproduct of the fact that speaking for me has been something that I wasn't born with. It's something that I actually had to develop. I was actually backstage at a a talk I gave a couple of months ago, and I overheard speakers and they're like, I feel like you're just born with it, or you're not. You either have it or you don't. And I jumped into this conversation. I was like, no, I actually disagree. I feel like this is something you can develop and you can learn over time, because I was not born with the innate ability to speak. I used to be afraid to speak because I had this underlying belief that what I had to say didn't matter, truly. So I was that quiet girl. I was that shy girl. And then when I went off to college and I studied nutrition and dietetics, fitness, and bodybuilding, actually, it gave me a sense of confidence, right? And I think that's how a lot of us get into fitness. A lot of us get into fitness because we're insecure. Starting out, a lot of people come from a place of no self-worth. They come from a place of looking at themselves in the mirror and being like, man, I fucking hate myself. I do not like the way that I look. And they're desperate.
Was that you? Was that you?
I had a lot of insecurities, for sure.
You didn't look like this then?
I did not look like this then, no.
Were you an ugly duckling?
You know what? My dad, funniest story ever, actually at my older sister's prom, when I was 16 years old, my dad turns to me and he's like, Rachel, one day you'll be a beautiful swan just like your sister. So like I was the ugly duckling in my family, like acne, braces, all of that. So I always tell guys, go for the ugly, smart chicks because I just haven't peaked yet, right?
Well, some of them stay ugly.
True.
So I know there's people out there that say if you want to be happy, get with an ugly girl.
That's because of their own insecurity, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I don't
advise agree with that either.
Yeah, no, I would definitely advise against that. I think they're saying because no one will steal your chick. Yeah. But to me, you just better be more competitive then.
That comes from a place of massive insecurity.
Give them something that they don't want to leave over.
Yeah. They don't have to be afraid that their person is going to up level and want to walk away from them. So it comes from
up level. That's a freaking crazy word right there.
Yeah.
Up level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Up level. You don't want your chick to up level.
Up level past you, right?
Well, yeah. You definitely don't want your chick to up level, which is code for get someone better than you, which is why, by the way, fitness, I think is a key here. Fitness is one of the ways, like, you gain confidence, like you said, and then it's harder to up level. Because, if you're buff, well, I mean, again, what about all the people that say that chicks like dad bods?
That's a big fat lie.
It's a big fat lie?
Yeah. The girls who like dad, it's the same thing as where guys like ugly girls as guys like, or women like dad bods and vice versa. It really comes from a place of insecurity. And you don't have to actually change yourself. You don't actually have to look at yourself in the mirror and try to better yourself. So it's a cop-out, right? It's a cop-out to not actually have to work on myself and just be able to settle and not have to worry about my other person growing. And that's what we see in a lot of relationships too, right? The other person starts to grow, whether it's personal development, whether it's fitness, and there's this gap that's created in the relationship quite a bit.
Especially if one decides to remain flabby.
Yeah, and then there's a decision that the other person has to make. Either this person's going to grow so much that there's a gap and then they decide to leave the relationship, or this person's going to have to start to grow personally, professionally to go along with this person. And that's when you can have a power couple relationship. But otherwise, there's a gap created and it doesn't work. Or the other person tries to pull the other person back down.
I knew a guy once, he had a girlfriend. She was a large woman. When I say large, I mean like, large woman. But she was cute in the face. But she was large, very large. Not that there's anything wrong with large women. I'm just saying she was large. I don't know how to say it politically correct. So she got in shape, and then she became hot as hell because she literally got in shape and left dude because dude wasn't that great. So she up-leveled herself and then up-leveled him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I think that happens quite a bit. Your person has to be willing to grow with you.
So if there's people listening, what should they do? Well, let's go first to how you lost your almost lost your intestine.
That's my story.
Yeah. What is your story? So far, you didn't feel really like you belonged, and then you found fitness, which gave you community, and it gave you a little confidence. You started getting in shape, and you started saying, hey, I like this.
I started to get in shape, and for the first time in my life, I began to have this sense of confidence, and I was really fucking good at it, and I looked awesome as a byproduct, and I fell in love with what it was doing for my body, physically and mentally. I had 6-pack abs. I started posting on Instagram, social media at the time.
And if you guys want, just go Google Rachel Scheer.
And I grew it initially. I would say hashtag booty pics. I grew it a lot from my body. You know, it was recipes, before and after photos. It was everything that I was passionate about. And I wasn't posting because I was trying to sell anything. I had zero intentions to start a business later on, to try to even get sponsors. I just fell in love with what I was doing so much, and I wanted to showcase that. It was truly for me. And I started to compete in bodybuilding. So I competed for 3 years back to back. I got to, I think, about 10% body fat as a female, which is insanely lean, not a healthy lean.
Well, is 10% the equivalent of like 3% for a guy? Because 10% sounds like, because I think like the best shape I've ever been in, I was 10%.
Yeah, probably like 6% for a guy.
Yeah, that's low.
Where the female does not have a menstrual cycle anymore.
At 10%.
At 10%, yeah, it's not healthy.
Yeah, because I mean, you're shredded on.
And I'm still shredded. I still look fucking awesome.
If you flipped up your shirt, not that I'm asking you to, if you flipped up your shirt, would you have that 6-pack still there?
8-pack, yeah.
8-pack. So you stay in shape year round.
My 8-pack in over 10 years.
Now, do you think it's because of how you eat or how you work out?
I think it's both. The accumulation of how I show up with all of those areas. I think it's because I'm consistent. I think it's because I respect my body. I prioritize resistance training. I prioritize my health over anything else. And I prioritize the food I put in my body. I rarely. Sometimes.
But you will get a little shitty sometimes?
I wouldn't say shitty. I think a half of a glass of wine will get.
So if you went to Mexico, you wouldn't knock down a few tequila and enjoy the day?
I would legit have like a half a margarita, and I'd be feeling good. And I just don't like what it does to me. I don't need it.
And what does it do to you?
Well, I feel great during, but after I feel like shit. Mentally, it really negatively affects my mental health. And for me, that's just not worth it. And I think oftentimes like we use a lot of these things because, you know, yes, to enhance the moment, but I'm perfectly happy and content in my life. And I feel like there's really no reason to. Maybe on special occasions I may, but not to.
But generally, you're not out drinking and partying.
No, I'm here in Vegas, and the last place I wanted to be was like near the casinos and the hotels. Like my nervous system was like, what the F? What are you doing here? Like I'm a nature, trees kind of girl. I mean.
So you prefer like.
I value peace.
Northwest.
Minnesota.
Yeah, well, the Northwest is all filled with hills and trees.
Yeah.
So how did you get to a point where so you're eating like shit, but you found fitness?
Fitness.
How'd you lose your
I got
intestines?
into nutrition and dietetics, and you know, I started to compete in bodybuilding, got to 10%, competed for back to back, and
Were you the muscly kind or like fitness?
No way. I've been busting my ass for 10 years to put on as much muscle as I can. Like women, it is not.
Yeah, but you don't look bodybuilding big.
To put on that much muscle.
I've seen some chicks that look like men.
Yeah, but
that's bodybuilding to me.
That's not natural.
You're like fitness.
Yeah.
You know, competition. Like who can be the fittest?
Yeah, I guess when we think of bodybuilding, we think of like the big.
Well, look at the words, body building.
But I am building my body.
Yeah.
I am building my body.
I think you're sculpting your body.
The thing about women lifting weights.
Building is like, let's get that 3 times bigger. You're not doing that.
I'm busting my ass to try to get as big as possible, but this is genetically as big as my body will let me get to.
Do you think?
I truly think. Unless I
what if I could get you? What if I could get you bigger? Would you want to do that?
I don't think so. Maybe my booty.
Well,
I do booty building all the time.
But if you increase the calories to where there's what's the opposite of deficit? What am I thinking?
Surplus.
Yeah, there's a surplus.
Yeah.
If there's a surplus of calories and you lift heavy.
Go into a bulk state.
Yeah, you'll get bigger. But why do you want to be bigger?
I don't want. I don't want to be. I mean, I've tried to get as big as possible with putting on, lean muscle. I have no desire to go into an insane calorie surplus to try to put on 20, 30 pounds and then going into a cut and then having to get rid of all of fat off of my body. It's not healthy. Yeah. And a lot of bodybuilders actually have eating disorders, right? Like you're literally up on stage and people are judging you for every little critique in your body. It's not a healthy sport. And for me, kind of getting back to my story, right? I was competing in bodybuilding, was a cover of Men's Health, bodybuilding.com. At this point in my life, like I am the epitome of health. And I had grown my social media to over 200,000 followers and
all booty pics.
Not all booty pics, just a couple.
But there's booty pics. That helps.
They're not there anymore. They're like
booty pics will get you followers. That's just known.
Way back. Way back at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, that's my story. Truthfully, is that
Well, how did you lose the intestine or almost?
I'm getting there. Yeah. So I got to this insane level with my fitness. And I remember at my last competition I did and I got first place. I got off stage and I came home, and that night I went to bed and just something wasn't right. And, I didn't have a menstrual cycle. My thyroid started to plummet. And I started to deal with excruciating gut issues. So I did what most people would do. I went to the doctor, right? We're like, something's off in my body. I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to see what's going on. And they did all of the tests. They did colonoscopy, endoscopy, CT scan, MRI, and everything came back as normal. Besides that, I had low thyroid, which makes sense because when you're in a very low calorie diet, you're training pretty hard, you're at the body fat percentage I was, your whole metabolic system actually begins to slow down. So that's what was happening to me. And they came back and was like, you're fine. You have just IBS or irritable bowel syndrome.
Don't want that.
Yeah.
Especially as a female.
Yeah. And they sent me on my way with a bunch of medications. And for the next year, I continued to get worse and worse and worse, where I couldn't eat anything without being in massive pain. My hair was falling out. My skin was a wreck.
Maybe you had Crohn's.
I didn't have Crohn's. Yeah, they did the colonoscopy and endoscopy, so everything came back as normal, right? And based off of Western medicine lab tests, it came back as normal. I was the picture of perfect health, right? But I'm lying in bed crying most nights in excruciating pain, unable to eat, and just being thrown on a bunch of medications. And that's what happens to a lot of people, right? But if medications made us healthy, we would be the healthiest country in the world. But the thing is, we are far from that. And we give people these labels based off of symptom clusters, right? So irritable bowel syndrome, it's like you have an irritable gut. I know that. Tell me why.
But why do they say bowel? That makes it sound
because your bowels are irritable.
I know, but we don't need to say bowels.
But see,
I would rather have irritable gut than irritable bowel.
Yeah, true. I didn't make it up. But think about like also major depressive disorder. We give a diagnosis based off of symptom clusters. So someone walks in, they're like, I'm really depressed. And they're like, I think you're really depressed. Here's a medication to treat your depression. We don't actually get to the true root cause of what is going on. So for me, I continued to get worse and worse. And I was eventually sent to a colorectal surgeon because, truth being told, I could no longer use the restroom anymore. And I talk about this openly because now I do all the gut health stuff. And
what does that mean, you couldn't?
I couldn't poop.
I know, but what do you mean you couldn't?
I couldn't use the restroom at all anymore. Like the motility in my gut completely came to a halt.
So it was cement?
Nothing. I couldn't go to the restroom. I was then put on
that would hurt
prescription
over time, wouldn't it?
I mean, it's toxic to your body, for sure.
I don't understand how you couldn't. You'd die if you couldn't.
Exactly. That's why they wanted to cut out my large intestine.
So you didn't die?
They didn't cut out my large intestine. So they wanted to, right? And this was my, what I call rock bottom of
right, yeah.
I've been put on now an antidepressant. I've been put on prescription laxatives. I've been
How old are you at this
birth
time?
Control. I'm 24 years old, right? And on the outside, I look like the epitome of health because of my body composition. I'm a fitness model. I'm a bodybuilder. But yet I have all these health issues. And I'm being told I need to have my entire large intestine removed. And I almost went through with the surgery because...
One could say you were full of shit.
Literally, yeah. I agree with you.
That's funny. So you just decided what?
I'm
going to learn to eat? Because I thought you already knew how to eat if you were in shape.
We'd think so, right? But we tend to look at nutrition very often as just calories in, calories out. Are you at a healthy body composition? But there's more to health than just that. And for me, my health was deteriorating on the inside, but on the outside, I looked healthy, right? And that's why no doctors actually took me seriously. So I left.
I'm the opposite of that.
You're the opposite of that? You look unhealthy on the outside?
Yeah. If I took my shirt off, I'd look unhealthy. But on the inside, I'm freaking healthy. Like a rock star healthy.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. But anyway, keep going.
I think there's
I want to get to a point where we start sharing secrets that you've learned.
Yeah.
But I want people to understand. So you couldn't go to the bathroom, which that's a heavy duty problem over a period of time. How long did it last?
And this was over the course of a year. I mean, I could go, but on prescription medications, right? So that was the alternative.
And it wasn't fun. So you literally walking around in a bad state.
In a terrible state, yeah. And the solution was cut out my large intestine, and I'd have an ostomy bag, which means you're now going to the bathroom in a hole in your stomach into a bag for a period of time while it heals. And, that was my alternative. So I left and I became obsessed with learning everything I could about gut health and how the little bacteria in our gut control everything from our hormones, thyroid, adrenals to our brain. And
that's where you learned about microbiome.
That's where I learned about the gut microbiome. And that's all the bacteria in our gut. And, Western medicine, we're just starting to learn about what the gut microbiome actually does and the power that it has and how it really is connected to all of these systems, even our brain, our mental health, right? And for me, I ended up having a lot of microbiome imbalances, bacteria imbalances in my gut, which actually makes sense, right? Because the bacteria eat what you eat. And a lot of things can play a role in our microbiome between our stress levels, the food that we're eating, environment, toxins. And when our bacteria become imbalanced, the bacteria, they're fermenting on the foods that you eat. They produce various gas. They can control the motility in your gut. So for me, this bacteria overgrowth caused my motility to come to a halt where I couldn't use the restroom. My thyroid, my mental health was affected. I think my mental health was also affected just because of how miserable I was in my life. But I had an insane level of depression with where I was at. My thyroid plummeted. My skin started to, break out, which hadn't happened since I was a teenager. And as I began to finally heal my gut, everything started to improve. And Western medicine wasn't talking about that. They didn't look at the bacteria in my gut. They did a colonoscopy, endoscopy. They did blood work, and they said everything came back as normal. And they were literally about to remove my entire large intestine. So
for what purpose, though? I don't get that part.
Because I couldn't. Well, so if you think about this, so if you remove the large intestine, which is where it holds a lot of stool, then there's not as much transit for it to go through. So they connect the small intestine to the rectum. So you can go to the bathroom easier.
So they were just taking out some extra length.
Exactly.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank God you didn't. Yeah. Right? You didn't.
I did not. I did not get the surgery, and I ended up fully healing my body.
How?
I had to address every single area of my entire life.
Was it kimchi and sauerkraut?
It was not just kimchi and sauerkraut. That is great for promoting bacteria in your gut, but I had a ton of bacteria overgrowth, and part of functional medicine says, why do we have this problem in the first place? And it wasn't just the microbiome imbalance. It was what caused that to begin in the first place. So looking at where I was at, my diet, right? Although it was quote unquote macro friendly and I was in a good body composition, my diet was still full of processed foods, artificial sweeteners that you see in pre-workouts and post-workouts that even though there's no calories in this, it feeds bacteria in the gut. I had a ton of emotional stress, from my upbringing that I had not begun to go down that healing journey yet. I had a ton of physical stress, training really hard. My body had a very low body fat percentage. And how dis-ease begins in the body is really, we have an accumulation of various stressors, dietary stress, emotional stress, environmental, physical stress. I had these different stressors, which created the perfect storm, which led to my microbiome becoming imbalanced, the motility to come to a halt, my hormones, my thyroid, adrenals affected. and poor mental health. And as I began to heal my gut by addressing, yes, my gut health, doing different protocols, elimination diets, I had to be very restrictive with my diet for a period of time, different supplements to help regenerate my gut lining. I also had to deal with all of these other different areas. I had to start to begin to do the deep healing work, because the whole person must heal for the gut to function optimally. And I had to really dive into my own shit in my life. And I had to pay attention to the place that I was really coming from. And I think we're really in an epidemic of poor self-worth, right? And this is something that I talk to quite a bit in a lot of my talks that I give on stage, but we struggle with self-worth. We have an epidemic of people hustling for their worthiness, putting their worth in everything that's outside of them, their body, their job, their career, how much money that they're making. Or on the opposite end, they don't feel like they have any worth at all. So they just say, fuck it.
Because they don't have any of those things?
Say that again.
They don't have any self-worth because they don't have the body, the money, the job, et cetera, the girl.
But
like guys lose confidence because they don't have any of those things. Foolishly, mind you. I don't think money defines you. I don't think any one thing defines you. I think you could be broke and still be happy. Sure. But if someone asked me for the truth and said, do you think I'd be happier with money? The answer is fuck yeah.
Sure.
Hell yeah. So, like money, you make a bigger impact. So when you're saying they're depressed and they have poor self-worth, I think people have poor self-worth because they don't have any money. They don't have any successes. They don't have any, they're not ripped. They don't have the hot chick. They're seeing everybody else ripped, money, hot chick, and thinking, why can't I have that? And get some depressed.
Yeah. But which came first, right? Was it the unworthiness that didn't allow you to actually go after that girl, to start that business, that led to further recreating that way in which you're relating to yourself, which is the view of self?
Well, I think our parents do.
It goes full circle, right?
Because your parents can make you feel like you're worthless.
Sure.
And then your friends can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wrong partner can do that. So next thing you know, you hang out with the wrong boyfriend for 3 years and you feel like a piece of shit.
True. But we have to ask the question too, if let's say we're in a toxic relationship like that.
How many people do you think are in toxic relationships?
I'd say about the majority of people.
See?
The majority of people are in a toxic relationship though. But here's the question, why isn't there enough self-worth to walk away from it? Why do we stay? And we can point and blame. We can take that viewpoint and blame everybody else. We can blame the other person for, you made me feel this way. Or we can take ownership of, no, I didn't have enough self-worth and I stayed in this relationship because there was an attachment even though there wasn't actual love. And we choose attachment over anything in life. I think that's why we do everything, right? We want to feel like we fit in. We want to feel like we belong. That is one of the greatest human needs, to feel like we have love and belonging. So we will sacrifice ourselves. We will sacrifice speaking our truth, speaking out. Physicians, when COVID happened, because we want to fit in and we want to feel like we belong. And when you put yourself out there and you speak your truth, you make a lot of people really fucking uncomfortable.
So how would you increase somebody's self-worth with food or nutrition?
It's an interesting question, right? So nutrition can be an avenue of that, right? But self-worth, it doesn't necessarily just come from I'm eating these foods, right? And therefore I have more self-worth. I do think there's a level of choosing to eat foods that love us back is self-worth, right? We live in
what loves us back?
Foods that actually positively affect your body, right? As soon as somebody starts to actually eliminate a lot of the standard American diet foods, the sad diet foods, we immediately label it as restrictive.
Did you say dad diet?
The sad diet.
Oh, sad diet.
The sad diet, the standard American diet. As soon as someone starts to eliminate these foods, they start saying, I can't do this. This is too restrictive. Is it restrictive or is it actually self-respect? It's So choosing to eat foods that love you back is choosing to eat foods that don't disrupt your hormones, that don't cause inflammation, that don't
9 times out of
mental
10,
health.
they don't taste good either.
No, I think there are some foods that don't taste good, but also the standard American diet, right? It has purposely engineered foods to make you addicted to them because they're these hyper palatable foods, the foods that taste so good you can't stop eating them.
Give me an example.
Hyper palatable foods, ice cream, chips.
Well, I mean, what, like the Pringles?
Yeah. What did they say? I bet you can't just eat one.
Do you think those are manufactured to be hyper palatable, or they just are?
They are.
Like a French fry is just a potato in oil, but damn, those are good. There's nothing designed to be hyper palatable.
They do design it to be hyper palatable.
God designed
the food industry.
Because we're talking about
God did not design Pringles.
Huh?
God does not design Pringles.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think so either, because I don't really like Pringles. However, you take just a potato, which is, right, good? No? Potato?
Mm-hmm.
You take a potato and you put it into any kind of oil and fry it. It actually, believe it or not, produces a poison. Did you know that?
What poison?
I'd have to look it up.
And typically, though, the French fries aren't healthy, though, because what are we frying them in?
Oil.
Vegetable oil, though.
Vegetable oil, any kind of oil, really. I heard seed oils are bad, too.
Vegetable oil and industrial seed oils are the worst oils, right? The SAD diet, over 34% of the calories.
Is SAD diet a thing?
It's what I call it.
Well, that's a good name for it.
The SAD diet.
It is sad. That's for damn sure.
Standard American diet, the SAD diet, over 36% of the calories come from seed oils, vegetable oils, and sugar, which are calorie dense but nutrient poor.
That's why we're all in the United States obese and out of shape.
Yeah. It's actually projected that in the year 2025 that over half of the world's population will be overweight. What's the problem here?
Food that we're consuming, and I think the lack of activity. We used to be more active, apparently, or used to eat better, because again, I saw a video that said you're watching people walk down the streets of New York City in 1936 and there were no fat people, it said.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch there for about a minute, and everyone that walks by is like lean and in shape. Was it the food different? Were the people more active? Why was the reason? Why are we getting more obese?
I think it's the combination of a few things. One, we have a food industry that pays no attention to health, and we have a health industry that pays no attention to food. We engineer foods to make you addicted, dumb, and weak. And then we have our healthcare system, and their goal is to just give you medications. Big Pharma actually profited over $1.4 trillion in 2022, with some of the biggest companies having an increase in over 23% because of COVID.
Does this keep you up at night?
It doesn't keep me up at night, no. And that's why I'm in the work that I do. That's why I do now functional medicine, right? We talked about this, I think, off the podcast, but I could write a bunch of diet plans and just sell it online. But I do coaching, I do testing, I do functional medicine because I really want to help people take a different approach to health. It's the mission behind it.
And by the way, if anyone's listening saying, hey, I want more about this, RachelScheer.com is where they go.
RachelScheer.com. I made you a meal plan.
SCHEER. Yeah, you did make me a meal plan.
People can actually check out the meal plan I made you if they go to RachelScheer.com/buffwithbrad. I made him a custom meal plan.
Is it /buff with Brad?
RachelScheer.com/buffwithbrad.
Buff with Brad, if you want to see mine. Well, so I have to follow it though.
You just wanted to look like me.
I just want to be like,
Would you want to look exactly like me?
No.
No?
I don't want those. No, I would like to be, I would say, as lean as you.
Okay.
Because
I don't even know what body fat percentage I'm at right now.
Well, I'd want to be about 10%.
I don't test.
10% is the best shape I ever been in.
Do you have abs?
And I was at 10%. I did.
Do you have abs right now?
No. I mean, they're there. You just can't see them very well.
Yeah. Have them. You just can't see them. They're thin.
Everyone has abs.
We all have abs.
Exactly.
Some people have a different structure. They're I can get an 8-pack.
If I flex, you can see like that they're there. but you also don't see, they're not chiseled.
That's
Hell
really
no.
hard.
I'll bet you I'm 20% body fat at least, maybe even 25.
Follow my meal plan and we could get you to
I want to be 10.
12%.
I want to be 10.
Okay.
10% body fat.
But you got to follow it. See, it's
I don't eat sauerkraut and kimchi.
You don't have to eat
I've
sauerkraut.
never even heard of I've heard of kimchi, but what is kimchi? Is that a lettuce? What is it?
Kimchi, it's fermented cabbage.
Yeah, I hate cabbage.
Okay, you don't have to eat that part.
Sauerkraut.
You can take a probiotic, and then you can follow the macronutrient plan that I gave you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try it anyway. Even if I don't eat it, I'm going to eat it. Why? How long do you think it'll take?
To get to 10%?
Yeah.
You're at what? 1, 2.
20.
What do you use the weight right now?
235.
You want to? What would that be? I'm not good at math.
At 10% body fat?
Yeah.
I would probably say I'd be 205.
6 months?
Here's the weird thing. When I was 10% body fat, let's put it to you this way. I was 239 and I was 26% body fat. I got to 10% body fat and I was 229. So 229 and 10% could be the case. I don't know how much I'll weigh. And I don't care, quite frankly. I care about body fat percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because, I mean, dude, if I was 260 and 8% body fat, I'd be a bad motherfucker. I guarantee you. So the weight doesn't bother me. When someone says, how much do you weigh? I don't care what I weigh. I care what's my body fat percentage. And plus when you get older, you got to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because you get older and older, and next thing you know, dude, you're an old man. And a buff old man looks way better than a freaking frail old man or a fat old man.
And even with women too, I see a lot of women who don't focus on their skeletal muscle mass, and then they get to their postmenopausal age after their
How old's that? About 45?
It can start in their 40s, after 40, 45-ish, around there.
And they don't have periods anymore?
Yeah.
And
it's reverse puberty, pretty much.
Is that a problem for girls?
There's different theories about it. It's not necessarily problematic. Like, that's what nature intends. I don't think it can be problematic. However, as your hormones decline, you're at a greater risk of losing skeletal muscle mass. And that's really the problem. The epidemic that we have is we have, a low % of skeletal muscle mass. Like, we're not focusing on muscle. We're so focused on fat. And if we can focus a bit more on skeletal muscle mass, like, I don't do cardio. I lift weights. I actually don't track calories or macros anymore. I eat until I feel full.
What'd you eat today?
What did I eat today? Oh, yeah. Today is an interesting day because I'm at like one of those Vegas hotels out here visiting. So it's not my typical diet. I had like a protein shake when I woke up in the morning.
So I woke up at Disneyland.
Disney?
You ever been there?
I actually haven't.
Food's garbage.
Yeah.
Everywhere. The hotel, they have a thing called concierge floor. So I go in there, I have turkey, just turkey, but I'm sure it's probably processed turkey, eggs, a couple of hard-boiled eggs, and half of a bagel. Why? Because I'm just trying to
Are you counting macros at all
yeah.
right now?
Well, I'm guessing macros. I'm not counting them.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get 40 or 50 grams of protein with the eggs and the turkey, and then throw a little bit of carbs in there for some energy.
Yeah. What I typically see, right, is like a lot of people will hit it some of the days, kind of guess, but then on the weekends they're not hitting it. I'm not saying that everybody has to track macros to get results, but if we're not getting results, then we should track macros. And I think everybody should for a period of time, because most people don't know how much protein they need.
Not only that, it's hard to, like, for example, when I'm like, I need 240 grams of protein and I need, for example, 70 grams of fat and only 100 grams of carbs. And you start putting in to MyFitnessPal is one I use, but you put it into the app, everything that you eat, and pretty soon it's like you're not able to get 240 grams of protein unless you get 90 grams of fat, unless you're eating tilapia or some bullshit food, again, that doesn't taste good. So I get to a point where it's like, screw it, dude. I'm going to get a Five Guys and fries. And then I justify the shit out of it. Why? Well, because number one, it's good. That's why most people are out of shape, because they're weak.
People are out of shape.
They have no discipline. And And I wouldn't necessarily say self-respect, even though at the end of the day, I think that is what it boils down to. It boils down to, I don't think I deserve a 6-pack of abs, which is why every time I start floating towards a 6-pack, I say, fuck it and go get a In-N-Out burger. Like when I leave here today, I'll probably get an In-N-Out burger. You know why? Because I'm starting my program tomorrow.
The Buff with Brad program?
Yeah.
I think also too, though, it's whatever we value most. So a lot of people value connection the most. So let's say how you connect with your wife is you go out to dinner and you have a glass of wine, and that's how you guys are used to connecting.
We don't have wine.
Or whatever.
We have, though.
Whatever you drink, a whiskey. What do you drink?
I don't drink.
Okay. You go out.
I'm like you. I will on occasion.
Okay. So
like last time we went on a cruise, we drank 6 bottles of kick-ass wine and got drunk.
But the average person, right? Like they spend their social life going out and having maybe a drink.
Rachel, I'm a winner. Have you not looked me up?
You are a winner. I
am a winner. I do not spend my nights out drinking. And by the way, folks, anybody listening,
you like In-N-Out burger, and that's your.
Hey, but I'm also real. I'm a real dude. Like again, sometimes I'm in this mental battle with who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Like I don't mind the way I look.
So, but that's
if I looked any better, to me, it wouldn't make any difference. Like in other words, I love myself without looking good. And by the way, I've always had, not always, but I've always kind of felt confident, which is why, I didn't do bad with the ladies in my day. Why? Well, because I wasn't buff, even though I did hang around some friends that were just freaking bodybuilding buff. And I still got chicks more than them. And the reason was from the confidence. It was the game. It was the sense of humor. It was the fun. It wasn't the freaking body. So a body to me, if that's something that somebody wants, is attainable with discipline, period. Get someone like yourself that knows what they're talking about. Get a diet plan, get coaching, get whatever info you need. And then the discipline is how you apply that. But my whole problem, and I bet you most of my listeners' problem that are thinking, yep, he's hitting me on the head. I think there's an in-between. But then I go the other direction and say, there is no in-between. You got to work out, get buff. And then I start getting buff. And then I think, what is this for? Like, what if I died next month? I could have had an In-N-Out burger and enjoyed the shit out of it.
That's why you have to always bring it back to what you value.
Or a Five Guys.
Because just like you said, you feel really good where you're at.
Have you ever had a Five Guys? Yes or no?
No.
You've never had a Five Guys burger?
No, I have had Five Guys in high school.
that did sound right. How was it? What do you mean in high school? How old are you? It just came out, Five Guys, not too long ago.
30.
Five Guys been around that long? Okay, so was it good?
It was good.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm
not saying I don't ever eat those foods, right? But
birthday cake. What about birthday cake?
There would be a point where you got so overweight, right? Where you were like, I don't like this. It's not worth it because of how you feel in your body. Yeah. Then you kind of retract back to here.
That's what I'm doing right now because my shirts are too tight.
Yeah. And there's a point then you're like, I want to go over here. And then you miss out on your life. And then you're like, oh, I want to enjoy life. So then you kind of find this middle place. So I don't think it has to be, I'm going to stay here. We kind of can do this little bit of a dance. And this is the goal. But most people do this, right? They're like on the extremes. They put on a ton of weight and they're like, oh, I'm miserable. I hate the way I look. I feel like shit every single day. Then they have these health issues and then they go to the far extreme. And then they're over there for a period of time. And then they're like, I can't live this way. This is way too restrictive. And then they go back over, and they do this big dance. Yeah. I think this is normal. We're supposed to have times when we go out and you enjoy and you have an In-N-Out burger. As long as you don't have any health issues. If you're 100 pounds overweight, I'm sorry, but you need to have some more self-respect and not have that In-N-Out burger, right? But if you're someone who's in pretty good health, like go have that In-N-Out burger. It just comes down to what you value at that point.
Do I look like I'm in the realm of able to have one, or am I the other side?
You can have one.
All right, thank you.
Good. Get my approval. Coach approval.
Well, the reason I look the way I look is because I have one.
But if you had one all the time, then I'd be like, Brad, pull back on your burgers.
Well, I have one like
Buff
once
with
a
Brad,
week.
It becomes bulky with Brad.
I think once a week, once every other week. And it's me, given I used to do keto. And sometimes you had to go off keto and carb up. So once a week, I would say that's my cheat day. So 6 days a week, I'm eating like, for example, 8 ounces of chicken breast, half cup of fucking white rice. Yes, I'll throw on some sugar-free honey mustard or barbecue sauce or some sort of sauce. That's what I eat 6 times a day, 6 days a week.
You eat the exact same thing?
Pretty much.
Why don't you mix it up? See, that's part of the problem.
Like bison and rice. Bison and rice with ketchup. Then
See,
I'll have...
I have a bit of variety, right? If we have a goal we want to get to, we do need to have some consistency, because if we have too much variety, we're not going to hit a goal. So why do we have routines, consistency?
I'm thinking about just hiring a chef.
Somewhere. Hire a chef.
I'm thinking about just hiring a chef to where they just cook me 6 meals a day, and I don't care about macros. I want it to taste good, though. Well, because I discovered Protein House. You ever heard of Protein House?
I have, because I've stayed here.
Yeah, but they're franchising it all over now. I think there's one in Dallas.
See, that's what the goal is. So I enjoy the food that I eat. So for me, it's not restrictive. Like, I have a steak, sweet potatoes at night. I enjoy the foods that I'm eating. So it's not restrictive.
Do you cook the steak or do you go out to eat?
I typically cook it, but sometimes, like, I'm traveling, I go out and I eat it. And I do go out to eat every now and then.
What size steak do you get?
I eat 6 to 8 ounce filet.
That's good protein right there.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Yeah, I eat food. I'm not like one of those girls who tries to eat as little as possible. I train hard. I eat a good amount of food, but I eat real food. That's the difference. I can eat a steak and potatoes, and I can eat all of those things and train really hard because I'm focusing on skeletal muscle mass. I don't have to do a bunch of cardio. But if I'm overdoing like In-N-Out burger, things like that, then, I'm not going to be able to do that as much. And then...
What about candy?
No. I don't enjoy it.
What about sweeteners?
Sweeteners? I think stevia and monk fruit can be okay, but I think all of the other sweeteners, sucralose, xylitol, mannitol, if you actually look up online, there's side effects. There's bloating. There's all these gut issues. Just because there's no calories doesn't mean that something in your body isn't eating it.
Okay, so let's say forget looking like a Greek god. I just wanted to correct my gut. How do people go repair their gut?
So a lot of the stuff you see online is typically about gut health, right? It's get all the prebiotics and probiotics and eat the fermented food, the sauerkraut, the kimchi, which is great. But if you actually have gut issues, you need to go through a gut healing protocol, and that's identifying what is off. That can be bacterial overgrowth, intestinal permeability, gut inflammation, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. But actually you can have gut issues without having gut symptoms, right? So rosacea, eczema, skin issues, acne, thyroid issues, Hashimoto's, other autoimmune conditions. Like, they all come back to the gut. Even I've had people who couldn't lose weight despite hitting their macros, and it came down to different kind of gut imbalances. So we take a test, don't guess approach. We do a microbiome test. We look at all of everything else, hormones, thyroid, adrenals, micronutrient, toxins.
Where did we get this test?
I order them.
So someone wants
it's a functional medicine provider. These are different tests than that you're going to get going to your Western medicine doctor. If you go to your Western medicine doctor and you say, "Can I get a gut microbiome test?" they will look at you like you're crazy. They're not going to order those, and they don't even know how to interpret them.
You have to shit on a stick or something?
Not a stick, in like a little tube thing though. Not in it. I guess you go to the bathroom on this, then you scoop it in.
You go to the bathroom on the what?
I don't. It's like this paper thing that goes over the toilet and it has like a little scoop. But you get to see everything that's going on in your microbiome and what you need to do with your diet.
The only way they can tell is from your shit.
True. Your gut microbiome, yeah. I mean, other tests, no. Hormones, thyroid, adrenals, micronutrients, that's all typically through the blood.
You take blood too?
Mm-hmm. I don't take it myself, but
so blood, stool, and what?
Blood, stool, urine.
Blood, stool, and urine.
All of it. I don't deal with it though, so they do it at home.
Yeah, you're not a
scientist. Ship it out to the lab. I just get the results. I go over and I create the customized
and you say, okay, so you look at it and you're like, hey, wait a minute. The microbiome in your gut are over too much this, not enough that.
Mm-hmm. And we can usually kind of pinpoint what foods are feeding different types of bacteria in the gut. We can see if there's a dysbiosis, an imbalance, so good and bad bacteria what probiotics we need to focus more on, what foods we need to focus more on, if there's inflammation, if you're absorbing.
You said moron.
Huh?
You said moron.
More of.
Oh.
More of.
I said we're going to focus more on.
What foods we need to focus more on. More on. I guess I did say more on. More of. More on.
I'm just throwing curveballs at you to see how you respond. So if somebody's got rosacea or some sort of just skin issues and they could have no idea it might be their gut, where are you learning all this shit?
I'm certified in functional medicine. So I learned a lot of it through that, but also just...
What's certified mean? Who certified you?
I went through the College Institute of Functional Medicine.
And they're the one that teach you all this stuff?
They teach a good amount. I'd say it's like a base. And then a lot of it has been through my own research and working with people. I've worked partnerships with different physicians too. Dr. Kenneth Brown, who's been on my podcast, he's been someone who's been very early on in the research of SIBO. He talks a lot about the SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth connection with skin issues like rosacea.
Yeah.
So he does some good
or
studies
eczema.
Huh?
My little 1-year-old girl, she has almost like dry skin. There's like, that's eczema. I'm like, there's something wrong with her diet then.
Something wrong with her gut
There's
and her diet, typically.
But there's something wrong. Like to me, whenever there's a rash or an issue, like there's something wrong. That's your body telling you there's something wrong.
Well, it's an immune.
Just like blood in your stool.
An inflammatory response, right? Immune and inflammatory skin issues, typically very much immune. And 70% of our immune system is based out of our gut.
Yeah, so like blood in your stool. That's not supposed to be there.
Definitely
if someone
not.
has blood in their stool,
go get
there's a problem.
That's a problem.
If you have a rash on your arm, that's a problem. There's a problem. And some people live with it.
Yeah.
It's just eczema. I'm like, I always think to myself, like, why don't you want to fix that, number one?
Symptoms are a sign that something is off internally, even if it's acne. And there's something that's unbalanced in the body. And that's where I love functional medicine. I'm just obsessed with learning.
But if I were to Google, is there a cure for eczema? Would it say microbiome adjustment?
Probably not. It would actually probably recommend a medication or a topical to treat the symptoms, right? Because that's the typical Western medicine approach. It says, diagnose, what is it? And then we treat the symptom instead of actually getting to the true root cause. So it probably won't. Maybe if you do a deep dive.
So do you think microbiome's the problem?
In a lot of issues, I wouldn't say in every issue.
I mean, you're a microbiome evangelist.
So I have been called the gut goddess.
The gut goddess.
The gut goddess. I take a gut-centric approach to health.
Well, I've listened. I've learned a little bit about microbiome, and I believe in it. In other words, it may be that the gut is in control of the brain, not vice versa. Like a lot of people think the brain is the highest form of consciousness in your body, but there's other people that believe the microbiome actually are running shit. Mm-hmm. And like when you're hungry, it's your gut telling your brain to feed, not the other way around.
Of course.
And then what you eat will eventually change the microbiome. So let's say I eat a bunch of broccoli. Well, for you, broccoli might not be what you need. Matter of fact, broccoli might cause you issues. Why? Well, because you already have that, and it will feed it and make it grow, and you actually need to grow these other ones. So like there's all kinds of them.
See, you're a gut expert too.
Well, I wouldn't say expert, but there's all kinds of them, and you have to figure out which one to feed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it changes, which is the part I don't like. It changes.
It changes based off of the food you eat, your stress, your environment.
Yeah, but it changes. So like I could get it all perfected, feeling great, and then 6 months down the road, eating the same shit. It's like, oh, it didn't stay that way. Why? Well, something changed. So it's like this constant, almost
your
recalibrating.
body's constantly changing. So of course your microbiome is going to constantly change. You're constantly changing.
Do you feel hot right now?
I definitely do.
I think the AC kicked in. You don't feel it?
I feel it a little bit.
I think it kicked in. Did it kick in out there? No?
It's not today.
Well, I think if people are listening, they're starting to realize that maybe some of their issues have to do with their gut. Now you on a everyday basis help people with this. Mm-hmm. Like you're not out there speaking every day. You just speak sometimes. You're mainly a certified nutritionist.
Certified functional medicine nutritionist, speaker, podcaster, but I'd say my main title would be functional dietitian.
Like every day, you're out there helping people with their diets.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you
team, yeah.
But that's what you and your company does.
Rachel Shear Nutrition does. We do all the testing.
Do you do it for like celebrities, or like how do you make
anybody?
How do you make multi-millions doing it?
I mean, we have a team of registered dietitians. I've grown my social media to over 250,000, and I share my story, and I think I give other people another hope for healing. And I think a lot of people, they're not used to these type of conversations about gut health and taking a root cause approach. We're used to what is off, here's a medication, right? And like I said earlier, we are the most medicated country in the world, but we're ironically the most unhealthy country in the world. I actually saw a stat recently that said young adults have the same anxiety levels today as a psychiatric patient does in the 1950s, right? So we are constantly just dishing out medications. And I think I even said earlier too, but in the year 2025, over half the population in the world is expected to be overweight and obese. And that's going to cost the U.S. healthcare system over $4.5 trillion. And it's all about profits, right? And we don't talk about the root cause. We don't talk about healing. And I think
that's because we'll get suicided.
Yeah, it's speaking out.
Have you ever heard of Sebi, Dr. Sebi?
I have. I don't know a whole lot though.
Well, again, he died supposedly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he died for sure, but I mean, the question is, was it natural causes? How did he die? As soon as he started saying he was curing cancer with food, basically he said that every cancer is curable with food, meaning, stop eating this shit, start eating this shit, and your cancer will go away. And he's cured many people with cancer. And the next thing you know, he's dead.
Yeah.
Because that's how supposedly this cabal wants us. They want us sick because cancer is big money. And the sucralose and all the shit that they put in our foods that some countries don't even allow in their food, they do here in America, supposedly. So we're always buying their fucking medicine and their fucking bullshit treatments, basically.
Think about this. Do medications actually have side effects, or do they just have effects that they can't market or won't market?
Yeah, why do they call them side effects?
They're really not side effects, and they're just effects. They're just not the ideal effects, right?
Well, they're not good effects. If you ever see those medicines, it says side effects may include, and they say it all fast, nausea, diarrhea, passing out,
But they're not actually side effects. They're just effects, and they don't market those effects. And how do they then fix those side effects? With another medication?
So you're not about medication?
I'm not against medication. I think in certain scenarios, medication can save someone's life, right? I like to think of the body as a garden. If you have weeds growing in your garden, you have cancer. If you're in a really bad place metabolically, you're having a heart attack, medication will save somebody's life. We need it. But what a lot of people do is they only use medication to address the weeds. And guess what happens in the garden? The weeds keep growing back. We don't actually address the soil. The soil says, why did this grow in the first place anyway? We need to address the root cause.
It wasn't the soil. It was the seed.
It was the seed. It's this part of the soil, in the soil.
Yeah, but it's the seed. It's the root cause, no?
Their root causes.
It's what goes in your mouth. What about fasting? Do you believe in fasting?
I do. It depends on the person.
Because a lot of people think you want to heal yourself, fast.
I think fasting can be very healing for the body. I think from a skeletal muscle standpoint, it's not ideal. So it really depends on the person and what the goals really are. I think for healing the gut, I think mentally fasting can be very beneficial. I think anything that we're addicted to, fasting from our distractions, are very beneficial. If there's anything you feel like you can't live without, fast from it for a period of time. Watch what it does for you mentally. We all should, but we all are so addicted to everything. We can't even live without like food And not saying like we should, and not saying obviously we need food to live, but I'm talking about the foods that are these hyperpalatable foods that we can't just stop eating.
Yeah, like right now I need a Five Guys.
You need to fast.
My stomach just growled. One last thing. A lot of entrepreneurs listening to my show. Tell them, because again, I like to make sure people understand, like, you think because you're not in shape, who cares? You don't need to be in shape. I'm fine. I love myself. I don't disrespect myself. I have a lot of self-worth. I'm very successful. I just love food and I'm a foodie and da-da-da-da-da. Tell these guys how much better they will perform with the proper microbiome.
Well,
like if they get their gut right, would their mind follow?
I think that's where it really goes to, right? It is getting your mind right, because the greatest tool you have as an entrepreneur is your mind. As an entrepreneur, you are a creator.
As a person, as an individual, the mind.
The mind is what we create everything from.
The mind is so powerful that if you think it doesn't work, it doesn't. Isn't that crazy?
And we're constantly creating. Even when we think we're not creating from our mind, whatever we think becomes our reality ultimately in our life, right? And that's where kind of going back, I think it does stem from low self-worth, where we don't go after the things that we want, and then it just further creates, like, the way in which we relate to ourself, our view of self, creates all of our circumstances in our relationship in our life. And then we have these circumstances in this relationship, and we're saying, oh, this is because of how I am, I'm stupid, whatever it may be, whatever that sense of belief is, which just further then creates this cycle that we all are in, right? So it is changing this, but how do we begin to change this? And there is the physical part, getting the body right. How do we get the body right? How do we get the gut right? It starts with changing what we're putting into our body, using food as medicine, but it's also addressing the mind too simultaneously. Like, we can address nutrition all day long, and that will play a huge role in our microbiome, but the mind plays a huge role as well. And I truly think that, health, we could say health is the presence of optimal feeling and function from a physical level, but health is also, in my opinion, internal peace. It is wholeness. And illness is dis-ease physically in the body, but illness is also external searching. It's external searching. Is
that's dis-ease
everything
too.
Outside of us. I am the best I've ever been in my life. I have, yes, you could say the body. I have the job, the income. I have the business. I'm single for the first time in my life, but I'm so fucking in love with
single folks. Bomb Squad's getting excited now.
But I'm so in love with my life, and I'm not searching for anything outside of me. And what's so beautiful about that is everything comes back full circle coming from that place. But that's not how it used to be, right? When I shared my story earlier, and I was hustling for my worthiness, which was truly what was happening at the core, that led to burnout, exhaustion, all of these health issues, my gut issues, my hormones, and all of this. And I think that's what so many of us run into. We're hustling for our worthiness. We don't believe we have any self-worth. So we don't put ourselves out there. We don't chase after the things. And it all comes back to the way in which we relate to ourselves. The food we put into our body, the thoughts that we think, our circumstances and our relationships are all created from that place. So it's really getting back to healing that relationship that we have with ourselves. And that is the key to an entrepreneur, coming back to your question.
Can you coach someone through that?
I do coach them through that. I'm a coach.
So get them back to loving
some of the
themselves.
things I speak on, gut health is just like the surface level. Like, we could do a whole other podcast and we could go 10 layers deep, right? But we have to always answer the question, why are we dealing with these issues in the first place? And it always comes back to that place. Why do most entrepreneurs struggle to get the results that they want? Because it's their view of self. If you didn't have any limiting beliefs about yourself, you would attain everything that you wanted in your life, more than likely. But it comes from these limiting beliefs. It comes from our view of self that is holding us back, right?
Where'd you learn this stuff?
From my own work I've done on myself.
What books did you read?
Too many to count.
What are 2, 3 that you recommend?
Recently, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. I love that book. Wayne Dyer has been very impactful.
Yeah. Wayne Dyer is an author, folks. That's not a book.
I do a lot of ego work, right? Ego is the illusory self, what is the illusory self? It's the false self. It's our view of self.
Did you listen to Ryan Holiday?
I haven't listened.
Ego is the way.
Ego is the way. Ego is not real. All right, it's our false reality.
Ego is not your amigo.
Ego's not your amigo.
So you've been studying for how long? You're only 30.
30. I have constantly just fallen in love with the journey of working on myself. Like my mastermind, right? So I'm now doing business coaching with people too, especially women in the health, fitness, the nutrition industry.
I have a lot of women that listen to this as well. Yeah. I think you're going to get your phone blown up, quite frankly.
Good.
That is good.
And what I believe, like
I want testimonies.
Conscious entrepreneur, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs are an entrepreneur because they want the money or whatever it may be to feel that sense of worth. I believe a conscious entrepreneur is coming from a place of, I don't need any of those things, but I am creating from a place of being. So instead of striving to get somewhere, I'm falling in love with every single moment. I'm in the being, in the doing. And there's no burnout, there's no exhaustion. It actually gives you life.
You're almost a hippie in fitness clothing.
In fitness clothing.
Yeah, in other words, you don't look like a hippie, but you're kind of hippie-ish.
I can talk about healing.
You give hugs a lot?
Huh?
Are you a hugger?
I love trees.
Do you ground?
I do ground, but I ground not in the way probably of what you think.
See, you ground, I grind. There's the difference. I'm an entrepreneur. No, like I grind daily, every day, work, grind, make money.
Too.
Do you?
Yeah, I've built a multi-million-dollar business. Like that didn't come.
Does that make you a multi-millionaire?
It does.
And you're single?
And I'm single.
Like how's that going to be? You looking for a dude that has millions, or would you take a brokey?
No, because he has to be on the same trajectory as me. And when you're on the trajectory that I am,
so no brokies need apply. That's what you're saying.
And I am not looking for anybody to complete me because I love my life so much. It's going to take someone really freaking incredible to step into my life and to be able to lead, to be able to lead a very strong woman, right? Man. Why do a lot of men say to women, they're like, I don't know, but you're masculine, right? That's what they say nowadays.
Yeah, but you're looking for a man, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. A man kind of go in there and tell you what to do and all that.
You know, the thing is, you could say like women in business too, we say it's a lot of masculine energy, right?
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful part is finding the feminine part in the masculine. Like my work is very feminine, right? It's very healing. It's helping people. It's getting to the root cause. It's helping heal these parts of them. Yeah. But I'm also a badass fucking entrepreneur and I will bust my ass every day. And it's finding that balance between it. And a lot of men are I do think, afraid of women like that. And they say, you know, she's too masculine for me. She's too, it's a thing. Like she's too masculine. And it comes again, like we talked about earlier from.
What if you met someone that's really wealthy and told you, chill, you don't need to make no money, girl. You just hang tight.
Well, sorry, because I'm not doing it just about the money. I'm after abundance, right? So abundance is different than wealth. Wealth is financial success. Abundance is, yes, wealth, but it is your connection to self. It's your connection to God. It is health.
Have you spent any time
living your life on your terms? I'm after abundance. No, I wouldn't slow down. And I'm also not creating from a place of lack. I'm not creating from a place of, I hate my life here, so I'm trying to get somewhere else. I'm creating from a place of, I love creating. So if someone told me to stop doing that, I'd say, I mean, you're not the right person for me because I'm not creating from that kind of a place.
Folks, pay attention. Listen up. See, I'm just dialing you in so that no losers call you.
Yeah, no losers. Apply, please.
No losers. You got to have your shit in order. Do you have to be in shape? Can't be a fatty.
Sure, right?
What about a fatty that's like really nice and he's willing to get in shape?
Because there's a disconnect.
No fatties?
Values. No fatties may apply.
Dang, you're killing half my audience. I'm joking. My bomb squad audience is fucking all buff, badass, fucking money holding studs and studettes. They're like you. You listened to my podcast once, didn't you?
Yeah, once.
See, you were a bomb squatter. You're going to get a lot of people wanting to talk to you a little bit more. I'll probably have you back and we can talk a little bit more.
No, we got to go deep.
Yeah, we can.
We just started to.
I know I can see you're just getting in your flow. So you're just starting to.
We're not done.
You seemed a little nervous in the beginning, but now you're starting to come alive a little bit.
It's because you kept interrupting me.
Well, that's because I have questions. If I don't interrupt, I'll forget. And then the whole time I'll just go, and then people will say, Brad didn't ask her any questions. She just talked the whole time. Trust me. I know what they want. They want me to ask the questions they're thinking. And they're thinking.
What are they thinking?
Well, as people talk on my show, people are listening like they're listening in the room, like they're in the room. But they just can't say anything because they're not in the room. But it feels like they are. So when you're talking, and by the way, sometimes the other half of the people want me to shut up and let you keep talking when I interrupt. So I have a bunch that like when I interrupt because it's what they were thinking. And then I have a bunch that say, dude, let her finish. You didn't let her finish, which is true. But that's because I don't have a list of questions, although I did write a few down. Like, what are the 5 do not eats? Like, if you guys are eating this shit, you're stupid. Don't eat it. I'll give you an example.
Vegetable oil, sugar, processed foods, artificial sweeteners.
The American diet.
Sad diet.
Basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Protocol for repairing the gut. Call you.
Call me.
There's more to it.
Rachel Shear Nutrition.
And then the last one I said is
Steve, you spent too much time on my story.
What do you mean too much time?
There are so many other different cool places to go.
Well, we'll have to go when you come back. I can tell you this, though. They do know RachelShear.com. They do know to follow you at Rachel Shear on Instagram. And I think I'm glad you came out. I'm going to try my diet. I'll be your testimonial. And then we'll have you back.
Are you going to follow it?
I want you back to talk about more self-worth shit, because I think personally that's most people's problem is deep down subconsciously below awareness. They don't feel that they deserve anymore. And I believe truly that you're never going to outperform your own self-image. So you have to increase that self-image, but we've been beat up from loved ones too, and everybody, about how little we're actually worth. People tell you, be humble, be humble. If you look up the word humble, it says to have a low opinion of one's own importance. I don't think you should. I think you should think you're more important. I think people should think they're better looking than they do. Even if they're not. Why? Because everyone has beauty in them. You're just not looking at the right thing. Because again, there are ugly people, but there's something beautiful about them. It just may not be aesthetically, may not be visually. But again, any ugly person can get in shape and now they've got a beautiful physique.
For sure.
And if you ever see hot chicks with ugly dudes, 9 times out of 10, they're buff. If you see a hot chick with an ugly dude, what are you thinking in your head? There's only 3 things you're thinking.
He's rich.
He's rich.
He's funny.
Okay.
What's the last one?
Most guys, most people that see that would be like, oh, he must have money. He must have money. Why would she be with him? He must have money. That's what they think. And vice versa. If I see a freaking good looking dude with some ugly chick, I'd think, damn, dude, she must have money or something. Like, what the hell is she doing at night? Like something. Why? Well, why would you be with her? Well, that's them visually. These two people obviously see something in each other, right? And it could be money. And sadly, in some cases, it is just money. But I think if you get in shape, you get your mind right, and you increase your self-worth, you'll increase your net worth just automatically. Anyway, thanks for coming.
It's been fun.
Are you going to come back?
I will come back.
We'll have you come back. You're in Dallas, Texas?
Self-worth. And, honestly, that's the work and the conversations I'm very passionate about, right? Gut health is an avenue of health. But I think, like I said, we're really suffering with an epidemic of low self-worth. And that's what leads to all of our circumstances, relationships that we have in our life. And it's really about how do we recreate that relationship with self.
Agreed. Wow. All right. Well, folks, as always, until next time, keep it real.
Everything that enters the human body gets converted into its usable form, right? This conversion is called methylation, right? It's like we pull crude oil out of the ground, but you can't put crude oil directly into your gas tank, right? Because the car doesn't understand that fuel source. Crude oil has to be refined and